Love a good mystery that leaves you wanting more? Check out my podcast. Hi, I'm Kaydra, the host of Perplexity, a mystery podcast. I tell tales every single week that have left me perplexed. You'll hear true crime cases, mysterious disappearances, learn about cults, hear baffling sightings of cryptids, chilling paranormal encounters, and even dark and weird history. I release new episodes every Wednesday, and you can listen anywhere podcasts are available. I'm also on Patreon, and you can even watch me on YouTube. Perplexity, a mystery podcast. Stories that will leave you perplexed.
Welcome to 13 Degrees of Screams,
where we scream so you don't scream.
We're your host, Alex.
And Stephanie.
And this week we have special guest Kaydra from Perplexity Podcast on the show to discuss tarot.
Hello. Hi, thanks for coming. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your show and all of that stuff? Maybe how you started?
Absolutely. I'm so happy to be here. So happy to be talking about a movie that I love so much. And yes, so I host, produce, edit, all of the things, Perplexity, a mystery podcast. And I started the show December 2022, honestly, out of like burnout and boredom from work, because I work in healthcare and a lot of stuff with like COVID was still going on. And I've always loved mysteries and true crime. So I just decided, what the heck? I love podcasts. I love stories, telling stories. Like, let me just try this. And it just stuck. So I tell perplexing tales every Wednesday, whether it be a cult like what we recorded today. You guys will have to go check that out. If it's aliens, conspiracy, dark history, paranormal, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I love it. It's lots of fun. Sometimes I have guests on too, and I get to learn new stuff every week.
Yeah, it's a great show. Make sure you check her out. And yeah, like she said, we did a crossover episode with her, and now she's over here to do an episode with us. Yes. And I just thought I'd kick things off by doing tarot because, you know, we're doing the movie Tarot. So why not? So
I'm so excited.
So I will not make any promises. I am not like a psychic or anything. I just happen to like tarot. It's sort of like reading horoscopes in a way, except you just like pick a card and you read the description of what the card has. So I will knock on it because supposedly that cleanses the energy. It's like sound cleansing.
Ooh.
And then you just kind of give it a little shuffle. Boop, boop, boop. See, cards moving, nothing in particular. And then we're going to cut the deck into threes and just stack them up in no particular order. And then we will pull the first card. So, Kaydra, since you're our guest, I will read for you first. And it looks like you have a upside down 7 of Pentacles. Ooh. And now I'll just go to my little book and tell you what that's all about.
I'm excited. I told Stephanie I've never had my tarot read, but I wanted to.
I love it. This is actually classic tarot compared to what I had before. I had an oracle deck with it's like spirit animals, and it's a little bit more fluffy in a sense. It's not going to give you any like this is a bad sign or anything like that. But then when you're playing with like classic tarot, there's like a death card and there's a devil card and everything like that. It doesn't directly mean like, here you go, now you'll be dead, but
it doesn't mean that you like change or something.
Yeah,
like ending one thing and starting
a symbol of ending or something like that too. Like I pulled the devil recently. It was like a year prediction of like what 2025 would bring for me, and it warned me about materialism. So just an example. So it says that when the 7 of Pentacles is in reverse, it indicates that your returns may be scattered for the time being. It could also imply that the benefits of your efforts aren't as substantial as you thought. It demonstrates that you understand when to stop investing your time, money, or energy in a particular project. So you must reconsider your options and decide where to direct your resources.
Oh my God.
It will read you to filth. Like, one time I pulled like a 3-card spread and it was like, you are halted in life. You're like, why aren't you making a decision? Like, why aren't you doing things? And I'm like, I'm sorry, girl. I just wanted a nice like hello. here's your new tarot deck. Like,
holy shit. I mean, I guess you get what you ask for, right? I wanted my tarot read, and it's like, to me, that's talking about my podcast.
Oh boy. No, it doesn't always have to be something so direct, but I will also tell you the Seven of Pentacles depicts so in this case, yours is upside down, but trying to let you see it. But
yeah,
it depicts a young man taking a break from his hard work to admire the fruits and blossoms in his garden. He leans back on his shovel, admiring the seven pentacles that dangle from the lush green vegetation. He appears to be exhausted by the way he is laying his head on his hands. He has worked hard to ensure that this year's crop is a good one. He can't touch his harvest right now because he's focused on long-term goals. So it's just, you have to see it.
Sorry,
I feel bad now. We should pull another card.
No, it's not that. That actually really resonates with me a lot, because I'm constantly told that I work way too hard and that I do need to like slow down and stop and like appreciate the fruits of my labor. And like, I'm like one of those people who will work until I get sick. And so I took a break for 2 weeks from the show, and I had like never taken a break. And it was like hard, but I'm really glad that I did it. But yeah, all that to say that it just resonated with me a lot. And it just reminds me that I do need to like take breaks and slow down.
It's funny too. Like, it's sort of like horoscopes. Like, I like astrology as well, but I always thought horoscopes were a little judgy. And I was like, how can I know that everyone that has like the same birth month as me has this going on in their lives?
Yeah.
So with tarot, though, I feel like you can always find something like specific to latch on to when they give you these descriptions.
Right. Absolutely.
Now, considering Kaydra's result, Alex, would you still like to do tarot?
Yeah, for sure. Just watch me freak out. It's fine.
Death card.
I'll just end this call right now. I've had it.
The meeting ended. So you actually have the Eight of Pentacles. And
is it upside down?
It's right side up.
Okay.
And it's cute. It's got like little bees on it. I think that's a good thing.
We'll find out, I guess.
Yeah, you're about to find out. So the Eight of Pentacles is the image on the card, and it is of bumblebees harvesting pentacles from flowers in a field. The Eight of Pentacles represents times in your life when you are focused on completing a specific task. You're completely immersed, and you're determined to deliver the best version of your work. In general, the card represents a time when you must work hard and concentrate completely on your tasks. This is not necessarily a bad thing, but it does mean that you must work hard to be the best. You may need to complete a personal or professional task. When things become overwhelming, don't be afraid to ask for help, no matter what type of task it is. The Eight of Pentacles represents the efforts you make. There is a possibility that you will have a lot of things to deal with. Work is necessary, but you must also strike a balance.
It also really resonates with me because I restarted a lot of projects I put down for a little bit, so makes sense. That wasn't a bad one. That was fun.
No, I just try not to be home in a negative light, but I still feel bad.
No, don't feel bad. No. Oh,
yeah, don't feel bad. No, it did catch me off guard a little bit, but it was good. Like, it is something that I have myself of all the time, and other people remind me of too, is like, slow down, take a break.
Be aware. Bring awareness to here.
Yeah. I'm gonna take it as a positive of like, it's something I was supposed to hear. Like, my spirit needed that.
There you go. And now I'm sure they will tell me all kinds of bad things. I've pulled almost all upside down cards with this deck. So I have judgment. So of course, here I am. So that's a fun one. Let me see what I got here going on. This card depicts what one might imagine the final judgment to be and the various forms that many mythologies take. The judgment card depicts women, men, and children rising from the grave in response to Gabriel's trumpet call. The outstretched arms represents their readiness to be judged by the universe. Pluto, the ruler of the underworld, rules over judgment. There are echoes of this card in death, as they both remind us that everything comes to an end and a new beginning is on the way. General meaning is the traditional interpretation of judgment focuses on the moment when we reflect on and evaluate ourselves and our actions. We can gain a clearer and more objective understanding of where we are now and what we need to do to grow as humans through self-reflection. The judgment card appearing in a reading indicates, oh wait, this is upside down. I'm giving myself the positives because I was worried. So
we do.
In general, reversed. When the judgment card is reversed, it can indicate that you have too much self-doubt and judge yourself too harshly. Yeah, that seems about right. Okay, here we are. This may cause you to miss out on opportunities. You lose momentum, which causes you to fall behind in your plans, making it difficult to move forward. This means that you should not be timid, but rather move forward with pride and confidence. So this is what this deck has been trying to tell me probably for like the last 3 weeks. I got it at Christmas. Every time I get any card from here, it's always like, you are at a standstill. You got to do something.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, she be trying to communicate with me.
She be trying. A lot of self-reflection in all of our readings.
Yes, for sure.
Pull it together, Stephanie.
I know. Like, yeah, fuck, you're terrible.
No, just room for improvement.
Yeah, for sure.
Tarot is a 2024 American supernatural horror film written and directed by Spencer Cohen and Anna Hellberg, based on the 1992 novel called Horrorscope by Nicholas Adams. The story revolves around a group of college students who, after using a strange tarot deck, begin to gruesomely die one by one. It has a 19% on Rotten Tomatoes and has a 57% audience score. So, Kaydra, before we get into the plot, I just want to know why you picked tarot.
The 19% on Rotten Tomatoes is shocking me, I've got to say. But also, my fiance did not like the movie, so who knows? Maybe I'm in the smaller crowd. But I wanted to pick this movie because I saw it recently. It was around spooky season when I wanted to watch a horror movie, and it was newer. And a lot of the horror movies that I see are usually like more campy in the sense that like they're not, in my opinion, as well done. Maybe the acting's not as good, but it's just like you see it for fun. Whereas this one, it was like it had good effects. It has good actors, a pretty interesting storyline that kept my attention the whole time. And it didn't have tons of gore. I'm not a huge gore person. I like more of a storyline. And it still had kind of that cabin in the woods vibe where it's a little bit campy and fun. I liked the humor in it. So I wanted to do tarot.
I was just interested because I hadn't seen this movie yet, but I obviously follow a lot of like online comments about movies, and I knew this one was like panned. So I was going into it like, I wonder like what this movie is all about. And I just want to say that I had so much fun with this movie.
Oh, good.
I was so pleasantly surprised. I just want to throw that out there because I was like, I don't know about this because like I've just heard some crazy things, but I ended up really enjoying this movie.
It's altogether really fun to do. I actually watched this with Charlie and Tyler for like a Believing the Bizarre stream that they did with their Patreon. And it was a lot of fun to watch in a group. Like there are like a few critiques that I take away from it, and I see like how some people got there. But we also just had like the time of our lives just making fun of it the whole time. So, I mean, it did what it was supposed to do, entertain us. So,
exactly.
Stephanie's probably sick of hearing this, but I always say I'd rather have a campy, sillier movie that's entertaining than a really well-made, boring movie. And not to say Tarot's like a not well-made movie, but it was just highly, highly entertaining.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And there's parts that genuinely scared me. I've seen it twice. The first time I actually watched it by myself. The second time I watched it with a group of friends around Halloween, and a lot of them were like genuinely terrified, and they were like, how did you watch this by yourself?
It does have like a lot of jump scares, and a couple of the deaths too. I'm like, we're really drawing it out. Like it's like I can't take the stress. Like let's just kill them and get it over with.
Let's wrap it up.
I feel like the first, not to jump ahead, but I feel like the first death was like the most intense.
Oh yeah.
It's very jarring, and it's the first one you see where you're like, that's kind of setting the tone for the movie.
Yeah, and I mean, like to your point, there isn't a lot of gore, but like in a way they are very gruesome. Like, because I lean on the fence too about like what age demographic this is for, and I'm like, could you show this to a teenager or a preteen or something like that? But I was like, got a person that was hanged, a person sawed in half. Like it's kind of on the line.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, for sure. I feel like high school at the earliest, and even then it's like, whew, that'd be intense.
Yeah. Well, are we ready to get into the plot? And Kaydra, just feel free to jump in if you have any comments you want to make.
Yes, let's do it.
A group of college friends, Haley, Grant, Paxton, Paige, Madeline, Lucas, and Elise, decide to rent a mansion in the Catskills to celebrate Elise's birthday. However, things get awkward when the group realizes the recent breakup of Haley and Grant. To ease the tension, they decide to search the house for liquor and end up breaking into the locked basement. I'm like, wow, you're just not getting that security deposit back.
Yeah, didn't they like literally break the lock on the door?
I think the door even said like authorized personnel only, or something, or like don't enter, something.
They're like, for sure the booze are down here. Like, why else would you lock up the basement? No private items, anything like that. It's just to hide the alcohol.
We're in the house, might as well take advantage. There, they find a room full of creepy occult-like artifacts, including a box of old hand-painted tarot cards, which Haley uses to read their horoscopes. I also think it's very funny that the book that this movie is based off of is called Horrorscopes. It just kind of gives you the vibe of what we're going for here.
Right.
Oh, I didn't know it was based off of a book.
Yeah. So Alex said in his little description, it's like a book called Horrorscopes by Nicholas Adams from 1992. But it's horror, not horror. Got it.
I don't know why they switched it to tarot. I feel like horoscopes is just a perfect punny name.
Yes.
And
they should have just let it go.
Right.
Each friend draws a card, receiving readings that seem ominous. Elise gets the High Priestess, who warns she may slip up if she's not careful. Lucas receives the Hermit, that predicts being led down the wrong track. Madeline draws the Hanged Man, that warns not to get hung up on things. Hardy har har. Paige gets the Magician, which foretells being pulled in two different directions. And Paxton draws the Fool, warning him of being boxed in and a sign that he will show up for his friends in unexpected ways. Finally, Grant pulls the Devil and is cautioned that he'll need to make a sacrifice or risk losing someone dear to him, while Haley herself receives the Death card, a card she's received numerous times in life, warning her that love will be the death of her.
I didn't know that you could do a spread like that, where you could do like a horoscope spread. Is that like an actual thing?
I don't feel like it. I looked it up too. I was like, can you cross over horror and tarot? And some people are like, absolutely not the same thing. And then other people are like, yeah, you could do like a full year spread, which is sort of what I was talking about. You would pull a card for every month of the year, and then you would have a card in the center that would be like the theme of the year. But still, that's not horoscope. That's just kind of like a year in review. So with her like pulling cards and being like your fourth house's judgment and stuff like that, I'm like, that's really in depth. And also it's just like a 2-minute like horoscope reading or tarot reading. She just like, yeah, I pulled out 13 cards here and I'm going to tell you, be careful, don't trip.
Right.
I was really wondering at this point too. And the second time I watched it with friends, one of them said the same thing. They were like, how am I supposed to remember all of this, all of the details of all of these readings? Because they're quite detailed and she does them for every single person, including herself.
Mm-hmm.
So I love how they tied that in throughout the movie.
I had a critique on it, but I'll get to it when we get to the first step.
Okay.
So the following day, the group heads back to campus. While home alone, Elise is mysteriously drawn to the attic, where she is viciously attacked and killed by a terrifying version of the High Priestess, who bludgeons her with the attic ladder. And this is like really gruesome. Like it beats her to death with it in a sense. Not just once.
Yeah. It's very scary.
He's just
and I think all the budget really, aside from getting the kid from Spider-Man for Paxton, went into making those like intricate faces of these cards like into real characters to show them. And I liked how they turned out. I thought they were really spooky and had their own like unique characteristics.
I did too. I loved the idea of like each of these is literally being personified, and like the person you see or the entity, whatever that you see on the card, that is the last face that you are going to see when you die.
Yes.
I did think that her death, just like how it was built up, was quite tacky. Just the idea of her being by herself at a dorm, and she walks into this it's a very nice dorm, by the way. What college were they at? It's so fancy. But anyway, they like She walks into the hall completely alone. The dorm's all empty. And then there's just this ladder in front of her that goes into the attic. Like, why the hell would you go up there? But
that's a definitely not my business type situation. Like,
exactly, none of my business.
She was very dead set on closing it. Like, she like had some kind of tick. She like, I need to close this door.
No.
I'm like, just girl, leave it alone and go to your room. What are we doing?
And if you thought someone was up there, why would you close it?
Right. And then it's such a direct callback to the reading because she says something about climbing the ladder of success. I'm like, oh, so here's a ladder. Goodbye. Like,
Right.
Exactly. Time and time again, I was like, don't listen. Like, don't follow the reading.
It's not directions.
We'll get to the one death, at which point I was like, what are you doing? Like, you know not to do this, but we'll get there when we get there.
Yes.
But I really liked how they played the audio of her reading, and it may have been a little hokey, but I really enjoyed it. I
did too.
I thought.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Steph.
No, it's okay. I like, to each their own. I thought it was a little hokey, but then also, after like we get through almost everyone's death towards the end, and her voice comes on every time, I'm like, it almost seems like she's in league with them. Like, to hear your friend's like happy little voice reading your horoscope back to you as you die is, I don't know, a different thing.
I didn't think they heard it. I thought it was just like an audience. Like,
maybe
that's how I took it.
I felt like they were hearing it. But
I did too. Yeah, it's basically like each time that they die, there's this echo all around them of that reading they got, and it's their friend reading exactly what happens as it's happening. So then it's like, oh, now I'm going to remember all those connections, everything they just read. So I liked it because it helps me remember and like draw all of the ties to it. But yeah, it's a little campy.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. I mean, it does help with bringing all those little details together, because who's to say how you would remember otherwise?
Right.
But just funny. Oh, one more thing too. Since you mentioned the fancy college dorm, did you notice, like, in almost any of the background sets, there was never any other people there? Like, aside from the cops they talked to, I'm like, there is no one else in the world with them.
You're right. You couldn't get any extras.
No.
They were all at that frat party when she's on the phone. And she's like, you're the only one not at this party. That's why. They're literally, the whole school is at that party right now.
But then after, like, people start dying and stuff like that, they're like the only ones in the school. I'm like, did they dismiss classes for this kid? Like, and then they just were like so determined to keep going.
Yeah.
The remaining friends meet up to confront her girlfriend, Paige, and Haley explains that she believes Elise's death was fate, as it was what she learned when she first turned to tarot while her mother was terminally ill, that you can't fight death. And I was like, okay, Haley, thanks for making it about you.
I do remember one of my friends being like, girl, now is not the time. Read the room.
Her girlfriend just died. And she's like, yeah, my mom died too. Like, yeah, we...
What
not
about
facts right now.
Yeah, because that was the scene. It was just her and the friend, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm like, I know you're like trying to relate, but no, don't do that. Like, please.
It's like when you're a kid and you're like first developing empathy for people, so then you can only relate it to your own experience. Mm-hmm. So someone says that they died and you're like, my grandma died once.
Right.
Yeah, it's that same energy as like, they're there. Little head pat.
Yes.
Everyone dies eventually. Like,
why are you complaining? While walking home, Lucas, feeling a sense of dread from his reading, is pursued by the hermit and ends up in a train station's restricted area, where he's tragically killed by a speeding train. This one, I was like, this is too many jump scares. Like, every time he turned the corner, this guy was like right in his face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or that there was that one part too where they're standing in the subway station and the lights start slowly going out, like one by one, like panel by panel. And there's a particular thing where like he just like the monster like glides towards the center of the camera, and it's like, it's like, oh my God, no,
thank you.
Absolutely not. And then of course, naturally, to make it more claustrophobic, he's hiding in the train cars.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And then we also have that echoing of the tarot reading for him, as well as being like distracted by the hermit's light. And I was like, so what does that mean? Like, plunge yourself into the darkness? Like, how do you get out of this? So I don't know. I feel like he was doomed.
Right. And I was confused about how, so he was in a really nice like train station, and then he was in that dilapidated one. Like, was that really?
It was like the restricted area, like the behind the scenes of the train, I guess.
But there's still a train going through there.
That's why I'm like, was that a real thing? Like, did that exist, or was that like a pocket dimension type situation?
That's true, because again, not a single person was there.
No.
And it's a train station, and there's actually trains actively going through, but nobody's there.
Right. I'm like, there's no way that would be running. Like, they could barely get actual trains running, let alone on the hidden side of the train station.
Yeah.
I was like, where are you, sir? Like, what happened?
Well, and I feel like he just went like 2 steps off campus and was immediately in a subway station. I was like, how is this right here?
Right. Where are you? What city is this?
Yeah.
Did you also think it was like really fast to kill him off too? Like immediately? Like they're leaving like their friend's house. I don't even think they've had the funeral yet. It's like they said like 2 friends in 2 days. Basically.
Right. I'm like, so quick.
I'm like, Final Destination would at least give you a beat.
Yeah, it was fast.
With 2 friends dead in 2 days, the friends start to realize that their deaths are linked to the tarot readings they received. Fearing for their lives, the remaining 5 friends seek help from Alma Astrom, a tarot expert they found online, who was discredited, and they were like, we're going to go see her.
Right.
Iconic name, by the way. And a very, very skeptical ex-boyfriend the whole time. He
very much
giving them so much shit about going to see this lady.
Okay, after the second death, I'm on board. Like, the first one, we could kind of, like, maybe chalk up to an accident. But the other one's dead? Like, yes, you could tell me anything.
Try anything.
Right, I'm going to find this tarot reader online from Craigslist. I don't know. Like, let's go. It's fine. Let's go.
Alma explains that the tarot cards once belonged to an astrologer who served a Hungarian count in 1798. Alma is also, I believe, Madeline from The Watchers, too. And I was like, oh, hey, how you showing up here? I was like completely expecting her to be evil just because of The Watchers.
Right. I was just expecting spoiler.
Yeah. I'm like, she's the astrologer. It's got to be her.
Or she's in cahoots somehow with it. I don't know. Or she like places this tarot deck, or she's the one who gives the deck to people.
Every 6 hours, she's painting her face with the tarot cards. Like, it's her.
I kept thinking at this point that the girl who did the tarot readings was like evil, and she was involved somehow in these deaths.
Because, whenever you hear the tarot card readings back to them while they're, being put to death, like, you always hear her distorted voice. So I was like, it makes it sound like she's working with it somehow.
Right.
Yeah, and just the way she kind of behaves and like orchestrates everything of like, well, we need to go see this person. We need to go see this person. At this point, I was like, I think she is involved in that.
Right.
Yeah, you know a little too much.
Yes.
And I love how we had that classic scene of like them doing research, and it was like 2 seconds on their laptop.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I found everything right away. This is great.
I love her like little casual astrology facts. She was like, he was an earth sign. He was found in the dirt. I'm like, oh, yeah, you got that, girl.
I forgot about that.
I'm an earth sign. Am I going to die in the dirt? Like, what's going on?
Apparently, watch out for dirt.
Okay.
Alma explains that the tarot cards once belonged to an astrologer who served a Hungarian count in 1798. After a grim prediction about his pregnant wife and child came true, the devastated count sought revenge by ordering the death of the astrologer's daughter. In her grief, the astrologer killed herself, binding her spirit to the cards, which cursed the count and his companions, dooming them to die as a result. I was like, what did his friends do?
Yeah, it's like a blood curse, too.
Mm-hmm.
She used her own blood, and it like creepily ran down like a cave wall she was in, and it like tied her blood to the cards, basically.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And these are, again, like hand-painted cards, so I assume she made them herself. I'm like, that's like, what, how many cards in a deck? 52 or whatever, if we're going by like playing card standards. Can you imagine how mad you have to be painting like all those little faces and then be like, I'm going to kill myself over these after I'm done?
Oh my God. Yeah. So she probably made them from those trees out in the forest.
Yeah, I'm guessing.
She was hate painting. All these people. How long do you think it took her to do all that?
My gosh, weeks.
Persistent.
Yes. Well, when you got vengeance in your heart, I guess so.
Yeah, no kidding.
This curse has caused multiple massacres throughout history, including the slaughter of Alma's own friends. She survived only because she refrained from doing a reading for herself. Alma urgently advises them to destroy the deck. I'm like, easier said than done. Like, they're not ours.
Yeah, I did think it was interesting that she had personal ties to it. And then don't they tie some, I can't remember if they're factual, but it's supposed to be like natural disasters or like assassinations and other things historically that have happened. She was like, these caused the death of these people, these people. I think she like references that.
She referenced, I think, Woodstock for one of them.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, Woodstock, really?
Okay.
Tarot runs deep. Oh, I do want to reference too, like what I've read, it is true that you should not be playing with somebody else's tarot deck.
Right.
So that was mistake number one when Haley decided to play with them, even though she knew they were bad luck.
Yeah, she says that. She's like, guys, I don't think we should be doing this. It's bad luck. And they all talk her into it. But she knew it was wrong. And she was the only one out of the whole group that was like that spooky friend who knew how to read them. And yeah, did it anyway.
Yeah. Going against your better instincts.
Yep.
While driving back to the Catskills mansion, their car breaks down on a bridge. In a panic, Madeline bolts from the vehicle only to be caught and hanged by the hanged man.
This was it. This was like, don't run. And she's like, run? Don't run. And she's like, I'm going to run. I'm like, don't do it.
I was yelling at the TV. This part made me so mad.
I know. Like, and the ghost wrote run on the window for her. And I'm like, no, don't do that.
Yeah. This whole scene scared the shit out of me. And then also they have all of the car sensors around the car because it's like this fancy newer car that can like sense when there's something on your side and you don't want to hit it, and all the sensors are just going crazy because this crazy creature thing is invisible, but it's like running all around the car. Super scary. So you have like all the loud like beep 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 beep.
Yeah. Oh, and you can kind of like glimpse its face every once in a while, and then eventually he's just like, he kind of looks like the Wendigo creatures from
Until Dawn.
Oh my God. Yeah. I love that game.
I do too.
That was my first thought. I was literally Googling it. I'm like,
Wendigo?
What are we doing? It's the same exact face, but that creature's terrifying, especially like when it's hiding in the dark.
Yeah. And then it's just like pulling her up towards it. I'm like, no. Haley, Grant, and Paige want to return to the mansion to destroy the tarot deck, as Alma suggested, but frightened of returning to where it all began, Paxton leaves the group and returns to campus alone. He claims since he's like so into true crime, he's like, you can't return to the scene of the crime. I'm like, it's not the same.
This is not true crime. I mean, it's true in the sense it's happening, but like,
people are dead, but this is all paranormal.
And like, okay, realistically, put yourself in those shoes. Would you want to be by yourself, or would you want to be with a group of people? And he's like, stubborn. He's the same sign as me. And I'm like, you're giving us a bad name, dude.
Wasn't he a Taurus?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, we should have done that too. Like, we should have done their signs.
Oh, yeah, that would be fun.
What sign are you?
I'm a Scorpio.
Oh, okay. Did they have a Scorpio in the?
I don't think they did.
Okay. Interesting. I'm an Aquarius, so I'm fucking Haley.
Fucking Haley.
I'm the problem.
Typical. No, I was kidding.
Yeah, it sounds right.
Yeah, but him leaving was also so frustrating. I'm like, dude, he's just like over it. I'm like, you can't just be over this. Like,
right. Like, it makes it seem like I'm just content to die. Like, I'd rather just die than have to go back and face it.
Yeah, it really doesn't make sense. Like, I do remember that one particular part when Paxton decides to leave the group. I'm like, this goes against everything he's been saying the whole time. It's like, you know, those classic tropes of we've got to stick together. We can't split up. And it just didn't make sense for him to leave.
Yeah, but no, now he's got to be like Scooby-Doo. Like, you can't go back to the scene of the crime.
Yeah.
What else?
I do really love his character, though. He is the comedic relief throughout the movie. And like y'all said, he is Genki. Is that his name? Genki from Spider-Man, the friend, that same actor. And yeah, I love him. He's great.
Yes, he's super funny. And I understand like why they kept him. And I don't know if he should have been in this movie, but I like that they got him.
Yeah, I liked him.
So there, the fool stalks him, taunting him relentlessly until finally attacking him in the elevator. And like, he takes his time. This is what I'm talking about. This death and the next one are the most bothersome to me in the movie just because of the anticipation.
Yeah.
Like, he walks up to his dorm and he can see in the reflection it's standing like a yard or two behind him, and it's just bending and contorting in these weird ways. You can hear it cracking. And then he finally gets in the elevator, and it's just, I don't know, it's deciding to put on like a little show for him. So like every time the elevator dings, he's like in a different spot or like right at the face of the elevator.
Yeah, and he's like whistling. It's really creepy. I
whistling. Everybody played the fool.
Yeah, that's right. I really hate clowns. So this particular part, I really did not appreciate.
Oh, really?
He looks like a clown.
Yeah.
It's so creepy. And yeah, the elevator doors keep opening and closing, and he's just getting closer and closer. And you're like, no, go away, do it already.
I was going to say, he was my favorite one, too.
Really?
I loved
Really?
it. I was like, this is so cool. Yeah, I really loved the design of the fool.
It is funny though. Like, it was one of the only deaths I attacks I laughed at because of the scenario, because he's just like walking back and forth across the hallway.
Doesn't he like walk upside down at one point?
Yeah.
And then, am I remembering this wrong? He had like a different costume. Like, he did like a costume change when the elevator comes back open at one point. He's wearing
like his mask changed or something.
Yeah. I do remember laughing a couple times because like the way he kills him is like, it's kind of funny the way that he's like building up to it. He's joking around because he's the fool. But it's also just very creepy though at the same time.
But it's one of those ones where I'm like, if you're going to kill him, let's just do it. Like,
exactly.
At the mansion, Haley, Grant, and Paige attempt to burn the curse cards, but find they cannot. They call upon Alma for assistance. She tries to summon the spirit of the astrologer, but during the encounter, the astrologer performs a reading on Alma and kills her with the Six of Swords.
Can you force a reading onto somebody? I feel like that's
no.
I feel like that's a cheat. Like, you can't do that.
And she almost like possessed her to make her do it in a way. Like, I don't know. I guess it was kind of like the wind, but it still kind of made it look like she was doing it for herself.
Mm-hmm.
I got that vibe too, Stephanie.
Yeah.
Loopholes. I feel like that's not fair. If you're just going to possess me and force me to do a reading, that's
not fair.
It's not fair. I don't want this.
I'd like a redo.
I know it's like a deck that she made, but I feel like there should still be some rules to this.
Yeah.
Right.
There's got to be respect and consent here somewhere. Paige is then lured into the basement by the magician, who disorients her by shattering a lamp above her head and getting glass particles in her eyes. And when I first watched this, I was like, why is she like all dizzy? And then I didn't realize that there like a lamp had shattered over her head. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, she just can't see because of, I guess, the falling little shards of glass, which I'm like, that's terrible. That's already my worst day.
Right. I would just want to die right there.
Yeah. All done. You didn't have to go through any more shenanigans here.
Oh, this next guy does the most, this magician.
Yeah, he really does.
This one was the one that was so carried out to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So she somehow like winds up on this stage and she sees like this horrifying, like smiling, gruesome audience like staring back at her. And the magician is facing the audience. And when she turns to run, he kind of like snaps his fingers and these like shackles appear on her feet. So she's like crawling away, but she knows he's coming for her. So I don't know why, but large wooden box, she's like, I'll crawl in that.
That part annoyed the shit out of me.
I know. I was like, no.
Just keep going.
I think her reading specifically said something about like don't crawl into tight spaces or like avoiding close spaces or something. And she literally crawled into a box. Or no, you know what? I'm mixing that up with the elevator.
Oh, yeah. But still, like it's
not. But yeah.
But still, like there was still like a reference to being like, don't let yourself be boxed in or something like that.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's like, a box. Perfect.
Like you can, I don't know if they're almost like compelled or something like that. Cause sometimes they get this weird glint about their faces. Like, this is exactly what they told me not to do. Here I go. Like,
that's a good point because what's the name of the girl doing all the tarot readings?
Haley.
She's like, it's fate. So maybe that's part of fate is that they're being controlled.
Maybe
it also doesn't seem fair. It's like, come on, there's no choice. Come on.
So she climbs into this box. He pulls her out onto the stage and then starts like kind of like poking holes in it with the saw. And I was like, oh, like she's small enough. She could kind of like just sit up and avoid being cut in half. But then he was like, no, no, no. I can lower the top of the box to the point where she has to lay down. And then I'm like, well, you're doomed. I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I hated that one. I
I did
don't like that.
And then they like pan on like the creepy ghost audience. I don't know what's happening there, but it was
They're
very
like all so excited to see it happen.
yeah, clapping like it's very that part's very Black Mirror to me, where I don't know if you guys have watched Black Mirror, but there's that episode where the girl has committed this horrible crime and she's taken by this town and they're like torturing her every day, but she like they'll like erase her mind and she forgets the next day. But there's like each time she ends up on this stage and everyone like laughs and claps and makes fun of her, and it like always pans to the audience and it's like very dystopian and like unsettling, and it reminded me a lot of that scene, if anybody knows what I'm talking about.
I unfortunately haven't watched Black Mirror because it's one of my ones where I'm like, it feels like if it's too close to something that could actually happen, then I'm worried about watching it.
Yeah, that's fair. There's plenty of horrible things going on in the real world. So that's part of why I like horror movies, is because it's like these are a lot less likely to happen.
There's so many more degrees of separation here. Like,
exactly. Yeah, Black Mirror does hit quite close to home on a lot of their stories. So
yes, for sure. So the magician ultimately ends up cutting the box in half and reveals the, like, luckily we don't see, but he does open it and the audience is like, yay, good job.
She did.
She did.
Yeah, I think you like hear blood spilling, but that's it.
In desperation, Haley comes up with the idea to read the horoscope of the astrologer to break the curse. As Grant is dragged away by the devil, Haley performs the reading and gives the astrologer the death card as well. Ultimately, Haley comes to terms with her mother's death, encouraging the astrologer to let go, which allows her spirit to be set free. The astrologer's spirit is then burned along with the deck, breaking the curse. This whole scene, I don't know. It felt kind of rushed because, like, every other one, it seemed like they were really like taking their time to have them play out their own deaths. But like the devil and the death card were both like in cahoots in this scenario.
That was weird. I was like, why are they both coming at the same time? Because they've all been one by one.
Systematically.
Yeah. And I mean, I know they are kind of in a rush at the end because they're like very near death. And so they have to figure this out really quickly. But yeah. And then also, meanwhile, these ex-lovers are starting to like build a little romance again.
Yes. And then they just get on terms of like, we might rekindle what we had going on. And then he just gets yanked out a window. And I'm like, oh, all right. But it's like some sort of devil creature. And then it sees Haley and then it just shifts into death. So, very weird, and very weird to watch her play hide and seek with death.
Well, she keeps saying the whole movie, they're like, what card did you get? And she's like, death, the same one I always get. It's the same one over
the
and
drama.
All right.
I will never have any other card.
Angst.
It's funny that I keep doing tarot. Like,
I know, like, girl, what are you doing? You keep pulling the death card. Stop.
Yes.
Just hang it up.
It's been telling you things.
Also, I found it interesting that her cards were used against her. Like, that seems like another oversight. Like, she's like, oh, hell, I didn't think about this. Like,
I didn't think they could read me.
So, in theory, she could never actually use her cards, right?
Yeah, I guess
she would die.
Technically, yeah. But I mean, she was already dead when...
But now she's like dead. She's like beyond
extra
dead.
Yeah, I always see her as like this evil, ancient, immortal witch kind of entity, but they killed her.
Yeah.
So.
And I think the way Alma describes her too is like she's taking the forms of all of these monsters as they're coming. So like when, they had the fool, she was apparently the fool. And I don't know. I just think it's really interesting that she's possessing all of these characters. But I don't know. I feel like maybe it's a little hard to read.
Okay. So like, wait, so like the characters are her?
Yeah, I think that's what Alma was suggesting. Like she possesses whatever zodiac or whatever arcana card that is at play. for whatever death. So she was the magician. She was the fool, technically, I guess.
So these could be like some nice little guys, like a nice magician and a nice joker, and she's like possessing them and turning them evil. That's odd.
maybe.
She's doing the most, really, because she could just kill them easy, but now she's like, I'm going to showboat.
Yeah. Also, she's very multifaceted, though. Then.
Right.
Like, he's the one who's doing all these deaths. I kind of respect her.
Someone got a theater degree for this.
Like that performance with the Joker alone. Like, and then the magician. This woman was a thespian.
Right.
Just to think of the revenge caused in the theater departments. Every time she got mad, she didn't get a part.
Yeah, maybe these are all of the different roles that she wanted to play and she never got casted.
Yeah. There you go. That's exactly what it is.
I love this. We've solved it. We've made it better.
We're solving this movie.
In the aftermath, Haley and Grant reconcile over their survival, and Paxton kind of pulls a ending of Get Out. He just pulls up in a car, and we're like, "What? Like, you are dead? You're supposed to be dead."
By the way, guys, Genki has actually been alive, and they really don't explain how he got away. They're just like, his roommate opened the elevator.
They didn't even bother to cast this kid. It's just a voiceover. Like, hey, dude. Like,
yeah, they literally don't show the roommate at all. Again, like skeleton crew. There's really not many people in this movie, but they don't show him dying. And I did notice that. I was like, they show all these gruesome deaths and they never showed him dying.
You can't kill Peter Parker's best friend, apparently.
No, apparently not. He did have a lot of knowledge on true crime. So maybe, even though this isn't true crime, maybe that's what saved his life.
I guess. But also, it makes me wonder, too. So, obviously, to end the plot, they drive off with him and, we find out that his roommate spared him somehow by, interrupting the fool while he was about to kill him. And I'm like, why didn't the fool come back?
Exactly.
He drove alone all the way here. That was a good time, I guess. If she can do 2, I'm sure she can do 3.
Right. And that's because his reading says he'll come to help his friends or something. So was he just never meant to die? So he's just being tormented by the fool just cause?
Yeah.
I want to scare you, but I'm not going to kill you.
Yeah, I remembered that too. I was like, didn't they say he would show up for his friends in an unexpected way?
Yeah,
and it hasn't happened yet. So, and then also I did like the part where they're walking on the long dark road before he shows up and you see the car and there's kind of this potential twist moment where the ex-boyfriend is thinking about his reading and he's like, wait, they said we'd be walking on a long, dark road. Oh my God, my reading's happening. Oh my God, I'm going to die. But really, it's his friend in the car.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's completely Get Out because at the end of Get Out, you think the police are coming and they're going to arrest this man. And it's just his friend bitches be cray. Let's go.
Yes.
Right. So yeah, I don't know if I liked that he survived. It was just a little weird for me, but it's okay.
Yeah, I think it's to make some sort of sequel because I feel the opening is so cabin in the woods. They kept on mentioning that the basement must have been the home of a collector. They probably don't know what all they got going on in there and stuff like that. But yeah, I wonder if they're trying to set up for a sequel where somebody could take something else and what if have problems.
What if next time they find a Ouija board or something?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I could see them making a new movie and just calling it Ouija or something. But
right. Yeah, exactly.
But then being this is all in the same universe.
Yeah.
There's already a Ouija series. So
yeah, that's true.
Wait a minute.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no. But I mean, people remake things all the time.
That is true.
Of course. Okay. For me, I talked about it when we were doing the plot, but it was definitely the elevator and Paige being sawed in half. Those were they just had a lot of buildup and I was really feeling more nervous for them, even though I knew what was going to happen just based off of everybody else and the readings, obviously, because they are telling you what's happening as it's happening. So, but how about you guys? Did you have any particular moments where you were these are the scariest scenes of the movie.
I was going to say mine was actually probably the bridge when she gets hanged. Mostly because a lot of things that scare me are where you don't see the creature as much. So that was like the most hidden one for me. And you just saw the face, like just briefly. So I would say that was probably the scariest part for me.
I felt the same way about the bridge. That concept of not seeing the entity, that's part of why the movie The Ritual scared me so much, because you don't see the creature for the whole thing. And then the ladder scene as well really creeped me out because it's the first one you see. So it's kind of like you don't know what to expect. And it's such a gruesome death to open the movie. So it kind of, again, just sets the tone. And it's so violent. She just keeps getting hit over and over and over.
Right.
And you're just like, oh my God, okay, when is it going to stop? So yeah, I would say the ladder was probably the scariest for me, and then the bridge.
Fair. Yeah, I didn't like the bridge one either, but I could take like a little step back with it being that she ran when everything was telling her not to.
Yeah, I also just don't like heights. And there was something about it just like taking her away from the entire group, whereas all the other ones kind of get singled out by themselves. It's almost like it's too easy to kill them. But this one, it's like he took her away from an entire group of people and pulled
no
her
one could stop it.
High in the air. Yeah, it's very creepy. So
yeah, true. Because all the other deaths, like they are singled out in some sort of way. They're either like walking alone or they've chosen to separate from the group for some reason. Yeah. So yeah, for her to get taken in the middle of the group. Technically, she's supposed to be in a car with everybody. If she would have just stayed, would have helped the situation.
It took control of the car, too.
Yeah,
because the car like mysteriously stops working, and
because it told
on the bridge.
Because the reading told her technology would fail her.
Yeah,
very specific.
Right, and again, I feel like that was her breaking the rules. Like she was, it's gonna fail because you caused it to fail. Like,
yeah. So, what would you rate this on a scale from 1 to 13?
I'm going back and forth between a 9 and a 10. Like I said, there's not a lot of gore, and then they like cover a lot of things. So that makes it less scary for me. But there's always that impending doom, and the kills are well done. Like there's good effects and everything. I'm going to give it a 10.
Okay. Alex, what about you?
I had it quite a bit lower. I had it as a 5 because I do think it is appropriate for younger people as PG-13. So I think a younger horror fan could definitely watch this around that range. I found a lot of the tarot cards and creatures more cool to look at than scary. So I really appreciated the design of them. And I found that there was a good amount of comedy. And I feel like they knew the comedy was there because especially with the end where they kind of did like the psych out where they're like, I was alive. So that made it a little bit less scary for me. So I put it as a 5.
I kind of had it about the same, maybe even a 6 if you want to like count in the gore. But I agree. I think the characters are more interesting to look at. They're kind of creepy, but not in the whole like I'm worried about like I going to take a shower tonight or something because something could be behind there or that kind of thing. So I think it would be more along the lines of maybe introductory to like a young preteen going into horror because there are those comedy elements and it makes it a little lighter and easier to deal, even though the deaths are a little gory at times.
I will say the amount of jump scares though. I'm like, holy crap.
Oh yeah. They got you stressed.
Calm down a little bit. It's like, dude, and you knew they were coming too. It was like relentless. So with that little caveat, if jump scares get you, this would be higher for you for sure.
Yeah. And I know not everybody likes that. Not everybody likes jump scares because they're like obviously done a lot in movies, but I thought they were like tasteful jump scares for the most part. And there were several times that I was just sitting on the couch with like my hands over my face and kind of tensed up. So that's why I would give it the 10. But it doesn't have a lot of gore. It did not give me nightmares. So I definitely wouldn't put it at like a 12 or a 13. And it lightens it up with the comedy. So
definitely.
Kaydra, first of all, thank you again for joining us today. If you want to tell everyone where they could find you, how they could listen to your podcast.
Absolutely. I would love to have anybody who loves mysteries, perplexing things. I am Perplexity, a mystery podcast. You can find me anywhere podcasts are available or on YouTube. All of my socials are at Perplexity Mystery Podcast. And yeah, I release new episodes every Wednesday. I also really value listener input and have like a community. I like connecting with people. And yeah, I would just love to have you guys. And thank you so much to Alex and Stephanie for having me on and letting me talk about one of my like fun, campy movies that I love. It was great.
Well, thank you again for joining us. We really loved having you. And thank you for letting us come on your show. That was fun as well. And be sure to check that out.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yes.
I was so engrossed. It was so interesting. I loved it. It was great.
You guys got to go listen. We talked about this insane cult, and I'm glad that I talked about it with other people because it is a heavy story and obviously like a lot of awful things, but me and Alex and Stephanie were able to lighten it up a little bit by talking about it together. So go listen. It's crazy.
Definitely.
For sure.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show and listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, giving us a 5-star rating is super helpful and we will always appreciate it. If you are watching the YouTube version, you can like and comment on the video and let us know what you would like us to cover next.
Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel to get notified when we drop new episodes. And you can find us on social media using 13 Degrees of Screams.
This has been 13 Degrees of Screams, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.